When I was about 6 years old, my mom officially ended her on and off relationship with my dad, and we moved into a small but cozy one-room apartment. I had my own room while my mom would sleep on a bed couch as she preferred to fall asleep with the TV. We were on the 3rd floor and the first door on that floor, so we only had one neighbor. When we first moved in, I was in school and my mom was unpacking at home. After she dropped me off, she met our neighbor next to our door. She introduced herself as his new neighbor, but he looked very resentful for some reason, as if my mom did something bad. After the introduction, he asked, "So you're my new neighbor?" Which was weird because my mom had just introduced herself. Regardless of that weird question, she said yes, that she lived here now with her daughter, me. "My girlfriend was supposed to move in here, but then she couldn't because you got the place first," he said to my mom grumpily. My mom was confused but apologized for his inconvenience, and that was the first weird encounter with this neighbor. After we had lived here for some months already, he suddenly became very friendly. Before, we would only meet him on the floor sometimes, but he rarely left his house anyways, so we basically never saw or interacted with him. Then suddenly one day, my mom was coming home from work with me after picking me up from school, and he was standing at his door, drinking coffee. "Hello, Mary. I've made some coffee. Do you want to have some coffee with me inside?" My mom politely declined, and in my memory, she looked a bit frightened. He was a very tall man as well, and I think the sudden change in behavior since the last conversation must have creeped her out a little. We went inside and I asked what that was all about. She told me she believed that he might have a mental illness, so we left it at that. Some days went by and nothing happened with the neighbor. We wouldn't actually see him at all in the days he wasn't communicating with us. Some nights later, I woke up from someone playing "Hit Me Baby One More Time" by Britney Spears very loudly. Because I was around 6 or 7 at the time, I was thinking it must be the 4 a.m.-ish music videos on TV on some channel from my mom's living room. I just left it at that since my mom did not seem to hear it or complain and fell back asleep. The next day, I asked my mom about the music, and she said she had turned off the TV after she dozed off, so it wasn't her, and she told me she didn't hear anything. So I just blamed it on me imagining it. Some days later at night, I woke up from the music again, around the same time. This time I was sure I was awake, and I heard it. I went into the living room to wake my mom and noticed you couldn't hear it from the living room. I woke my mom to show her the noise, and she clearly heard it too. She wandered around my room to see what direction it was coming from, until she put her ear against the right wall of my room. After listening for a minute, she confirmed to me it was coming from the side, and that it was the neighbor, as we didn't have other neighbors. She called the police and complained to them about the music and that it woke me up, and she has a child that has to go to school the next day and is losing sleep due to this. My mom was never a woman to bullshit around. The police arrived 30 minutes later, and we stood in front of our closed house door to listen to the conversation between our neighbor and the police. They told him a neighbor complained and that he needed to turn down the music, as it was already way past midnight. He was very blunt and avoided any further talk with the police, just saying "okay" all the time. After we heard the police leave and his door close, we went to bed. Immediately the next day, he was standing in front of his door as my mom was coming home from work. He asked her something along the lines of, "Did you call the police on me?" My mom, a single mother living next to a tall man who gave weird vibes, lied and denied the allegations. He asked if she liked the music, and my mother told me and left her speechless. She said she didn't like Britney Spears and got quickly in her apartment. As it was a Friday that they had the encounter, she would stay in most of the weekend, being safe from the weirdo. I was at my dad's place, so I don't know what small creepy things she might have noticed on that weekend. On Sunday, I came back from my dad in the evening. After dinner, I went to bed as I had school the next day. Again, I woke up at night because of the same goddamn Britney Spears Best Hits album. This time it was Toxic. It was the early 2000s after all. 2005, I believe. I woke up my mom again, and she came into my room, banging against the wall, revealing in that moment by doing that, it was her that called the police the other day. We heard the music being turned down lower, but not turned off, and the neighbor screaming through the wall, "Do you like that song, Mary?" And then turning the music back up. My mom, understandably creeped out, called the police again, but before they could arrive, he turned off the music, and the police couldn't do anything as he turned off the music about 20 minutes already before they arrived. I guess he heard my mom say to me that she was calling the police again. I didn't sleep well that night, and my mom didn't sleep at all. A few things happened since then that were rather unsettling. For example, we sometimes could hear him literally listening to our conversations. My mom's phone calls or when my mom had guests over. We could hear him moving rooms to the same directions as we did, and him walking against the wall and then stopping, indicating he was listening. Really creepy stuff, but my mom had no solid proof to call the police against him. One day we were walking our dog, a female golden retriever, and he was watching us from his window. When my mom noticed that the first time, she looked out for it the next time, and he was watching us from the window again. At this point, my mom had told my uncle about the neighbor. My uncle showed up once to knock on his door with the intention to tell him to leave us alone, but he didn't open the door to him. But he was very clearly home. We could hear him move inside. My uncle screamed it through the door, and we hoped he would get scared off a little bit by that, but he certainly didn't. At this point, my mom didn't leave me alone anymore, not even in the apartment. I had to come with her wherever she went. Once we were walking the dog again, and he happened to come downstairs at the same time. He stopped to say, "Oh, she's a cute dog." But how did he know she was a female? My mom got so frightened, she didn't even reply, but acted as if we had forgotten something in the apartment, and we went back inside as we didn't want to be outside when he knowingly was as well. It was clear he was listening to everything we said through the walls, to the point he even knew our dog was a female. Some time went by, and we would just notice his usual creepy behavior of watching us from the window, listening through the walls, and occasional Britney Spears music at night. Suddenly, one day, we were coming back from grocery shopping, and there happened to be a piece of paper taped on his door. We looked at it, and it was a phone number. Without saying anything to me, my mom just looked at me briefly and took the paper, and we went inside our home. We looked at the paper and noticed he wrote it at the back of a recent grocery receipt where he apparently bought tons of cheese and bread, which was already weird. She told me she's going to call the number anonymously and I should record it with my emergency cell phone. She started calling the number anonymously. I started recording, and the neighbor immediately picked up. Looking back, I guess he saw us taking the note through the peephole, He furiously started shouting into the phone.
"Mary, it's 5 p.m. You should have called sooner."
He kept saying this on the phone. We could even kind of hear it through the wall. He repeated this, then laid down the phone, walked around his room, and we could hear because his voice became more distant but kept saying the same thing. My mom called for 1 minute and then hung up. We were freaked out. I remember I was very scared and begged my mom to stay somewhere else tonight, but my mom told me, "No, this ends today." And it did. Hours later in the evening, something crazy happened. All my mom did was call my dad to let him know what was going on, and he was on high alert to come over any time. We suddenly heard a knock on the door. Not a neighborly knock. It was like a police knock. My mom jumped up, obviously cautiously walking to the door, looking through the peephole, and it was the neighbor. Before my mom could react, he knocked again and said, "Mary, what's wrong? You haven't walked the dog. Open the door." My mom answered through the door, "Please go away." He didn't. He kept talking and knocking on the door. I got scared and asked my mom to call the police or my dad. The neighbor suddenly called out my name and said, "Don't worry. Don't be scared." I got 100% more scared, and so did my mom. She started to scream through the door, "Off! Leave us alone!" But he wouldn't leave us alone. My mom, I don't know why, opened the door and told him loudly to leave us alone, very seriously. I don't know what he said back really, but I don't believe it made much sense. As my mom was about to close the door on him again, he suddenly put his foot in between and tried to force his way in. My mom pushed the door against his body and screamed for help, while he still tried to get into the apartment. I freaked out and started crying. I grabbed the fisher net I had and hit the neighbor with the handle of the net. After what seemed like only 2 minutes, a neighbor from upstairs ran downstairs to our rescue, pulling the guy away from our door and holding him against the wall. My mom told me to go into the living room, but I stayed close so I could see. Our upstairs neighbor was shouting at our creepy neighbor to leave us alone, and that we were a woman and a kid living here, and that he is a danger to us. The creep then quickly disappeared in his apartment, and the good neighbor came to check up on us, telling us that the guy has always had a weird vibe, and that he is, in fact, mentally ill, and this apartment was given to him by government support. We thanked him for his help, and he informed us that he had called the cops before, and they would be coming shortly, and he was waiting for the police to serve as witness. My mom called my dad for additional support, who almost arrived with the police at the same time. The police then knocked on his door, and after he asked who it was, the police told him somebody had called them on him due to his harassing his neighbors. He opened and demanded to see their badges, which they showed. My mom and I could look inside his apartment, and it looked empty. He didn't have much furniture and seemed like he just moved there, with essential things missing like a fridge. The walls were dirty. He then said he didn't do anything, but the good neighbor told the police what happened. The creep then got asked for his ID. He said he didn't have any. The police didn't believe him and said if he can't provide ID, then they will come back with a search warrant so they can help him find his ID. He came back in a minute with his ID. Then they quickly looked up his record, and they confirmed to us that he was mentally ill, and that he had been stalking another person once before. Maybe this girlfriend that actually wanted our apartment. They said they can't make him move due to his governmental protection, but that they will talk to his mental health institute about this incident. And at the end of the talk, they really recommended my mom to move, as they know law enforcement can be slow in those cases, and they didn't want to risk my mom's or my well-being. My dad was now coming around more often due to this, for 2 months until we moved. We left the place for my cousin, who moved in next. When my cousin moved in, he met our neighbor, who then asked him, "Where's Mary?" And my cousin told him that he will never see her again, and that he better not talk to him or his family ever again. I think that scared him off because shortly after that, he mysteriously moved from one day to another, and that was the end of that. Fellow thrill seekers, we sense your presence, but we'd love to hear from you too. Don't be a silent specter. Say hi in the comments and let us know you're haunting the virtual realm with us.